This presentation focuses on identifying the elements of a plot diagram. You may want to take some notes. This is your typical plot diagram. Our little friend here is going to climb up the mountain and fall to the bottom. You may have seen this diagram. In fact, you've definitely seen this diagram in an English class before. He travels across. The story builds. It reaches its pivotal moment. The action recedes. The problem is solved. The story is over. The definition of plot. Plot is the organized pattern or sequence of events that make up a story. Every plot is made up of a series of incidents that are related to one another to deal with the conflicts. If the events in a story aren't related to each other, it doesn't make very much sense. So the definition of a plot is that it must be organized and they have to be connected to each other, and the story has to deal with the conflict. The first element is exposition. This usually occurs at the beginning of a short story. This is where the characters are introduced. We learn a little bit about the setting of the story, but most importantly, we're introduced to the main conflict. And remember, conflicts can be external or internal. More about that later. Rising action. This is the part of the story that develops the conflict. A building of interest or suspense will occur. The climax. This is the turning point of the story. Usually, the main character comes face to face with the conflict. Often, the main character will change in some way. And the falling action. All loose ends of the plot are tied up. The conflicts and the climax are over. Resolution. In the resolution, the story comes to a reasonable ending. Not all stories come to reasonable endings, so there are other diagrams for plot, but this is your basic one. To put it all together, the exposition and the rising action happen at the beginning of the story, the climax happens in the middle, and the falling action and resolution happen toward the end. This is just a basic overview of structure and elements. A story can have more than one plot, just like there can be more than one conflict. Later, we'll talk about subplots, foreshadowing, parallel plots, and more.